Well, good evening. Welcome once again to Thursday evening devotions from around the kitchen table, where we've been talking about each week women of the Bible. And some of the women have names, some of them do not. Some of them had some prominent positions, others were had menial tasks, or they weren't real important in their society. And yet they were important in the promulgating of the gospel, carrying the word of God to all generations. And so they've been very important in our lives, whether we realize it or not. Oftentimes we just skip over their names, and so I think it's very important that we try to learn just a little bit about them. Now, the women we're looking at tonight, and there are two of them, they are nameless. We know them only by their occupations, that they were both prostitutes or harlots. And so, and one might think, well, what does that have to do with the Word of God? Well, we'll see here. They are important as well, and well, I'll just go on and we'll see. Their story can be found in 1 Kings chapter 3. Now it's a story of Solomon, and in Solomon, with Solomon, we see that God's wisdom has been revealed in Solomon. You know, when Solomon came into power or into the kingship, he didn't ask God for wealth or riches or any of that. He had all that. He asked for wisdom as to how to manage his kingdom and how to manage his subordinates. And so tonight we're looking at the maternal instinct of one of these harlots. There were two women, we're told, the two prostitutes who lived together, and we assume that they did business together in the community, and so they shared the expenses and the like. But both of them, we're told, gave birth just 3 days apart. The one woman who had a child. One morning or one evening, she went to sleep, and when she woke up in the morning, her baby was dead. She discovered that she had smothered it in the night unintentionally, but she'd laid on it and smothered the life out of the child. And she began accusing the other woman of swapping the baby, swapping the infants, substituting the dead child for the live child. And one wonders why the woman of the dead baby really wanted a baby anyway, since it was proof of her occupation that made her an outcast anyway in society. People who were harlots or prostitutes in that day were considered outcasts of society, let alone having children out of wedlock. That was a major taboo in Solomon's day, and it was looked down upon. Well, the argument and the disagreement between the two women kept getting worse and worse and worse, and for whatever reason, the woman of the dead child wanted the infant of the living, or wanted the living child, and they couldn't come to any kind of agreement. And so the Israelites then decided that there was only one way to resolve this argument, if you will, and that was to go to the king, go to King Solomon, because God had granted him divine wisdom as to how to solve and resolve problems such as this, and even harsher problems, although this was a very severe problem. It presented Solomon with a big problem in judgment. It was a difficult situation for him to resolve. There wasn't any evidence the only evidence that there was from the outcasts themselves, and they were social outcasts. There were no witnesses to the swap of the babies as alleged by the mother whose baby had died. Both of these women were considered to be low character mothers, so one's word was just as good as the other. Which of the two was trying to save their own skin? Was the mother of the dead baby afraid that she was going to be punished for killing her baby, even though it was perhaps inadvertent? She didn't mean to do that. And so anyway, the arguing continued, but then Solomon's getting ready to exercise his wisdom and his genius. He asked an officer in the court to bring a sword into the court. When the officer arrived with the sword, Solomon gave orders then to take his sword and to divide that baby in half and give half of it to each mother. Well, the real mother then ran and fell down at the feet of, face down at the feet of Solomon, and she pled for her baby's life. Said, don't hurt the baby, don't kill the baby. Instead, let the other woman have the baby. Just let her have it. And of course, the other woman, who didn't really want the baby after all, said, no, go ahead and divide it. Go ahead and divide it up. Then each one of us will have part of it. Isn't that the way it is? We see that in our world today, too, that kind of thinking. I don't really want it, but I don't want that person to have it either. You don't need it, I want it. I don't want you to have it, I don't need it. You know, that kind of thinking, that kind of thinking is just ridiculous. I don't know how people think like that, but they do. We see in a way, we see that, and I don't want to get political, but we see that in a way in our society today, in our culture today, right here in our own country. We see people going out rioting and looting and destroying businesses and ruining families, hurting people with violence, disrupting their own communities' culture and economy, and creating millions upon millions of dollars worth of damage, just destroying things at will. Not because they want anything, just because they want to go out and enjoy it. Somebody who has more or earned more than what they have, they want to take it from them just because they have it. That's crazy. In my opinion, that's just simply not right. But that's kind of the attitude of the mother of this dead baby. I don't want your baby, but I don't want you to have it either. Why? I don't know. Maybe she just wanted the mother of the living baby to feel and experience the pain that she was going through. Anyway, Solomon, God gave Solomon the discernment to judge the heart of this mother. And Solomon said, stop right now, stop. Don't kill the baby, don't hurt the baby. Instead, give that baby to this mother who's laying here at my feet. She is the real mother. I could tell by her maternal instincts not to hurt the baby. Let her have the baby. She is the real mother. Well, the judgment of Solomon greatly increased his reputation in his kingdom when his people saw the wisdom that God had given him to judge his people. The record of this all is really kind of revolting, isn't it? It emphasizes the shame and the sorrow of the illicit practice of prostitution. Certainly in that day, we're more sophisticated today, aren't we? We don't think as they did back then. Right. Yet in all of this sad story, there's a gem that just remains in this human frailty that is represented here between these two harlots. The noble maternal affection displayed by the true mother, and the wickedness displayed by the false mother. And in the true mother, in her wickedness, she still retained a genuine worth. And she was prepared to sacrifice herself for her child. And it reminds us that even down inside, deep in the sinful heart, feelings lie buried that grace can restore. God's Spirit can speak to any heart and change that heart if only you are willing to allow Him to restore you into His grace and love. When I think of this story, I wonder, wouldn't it be just interesting to have the next chapter in this story to see if these two women got along together after that, or if they parted company? Did the real mother of the two reform her ways? Did she change occupations? Did she seek to bring her son up without a father's name in the fear of the Lord? Did she remarry, or did she marry and find a father for her son? We don't know that. But what we can see is we can see that God gave Solomon the wisdom to judge this mother's heart and the heart of the other one. And Jesus tells us as well that people will know that we are His by our actions. By our actions. And by our actions we display what is in our heart so that others can see. Well, be blessed and have a great week.